Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trip On podcast with a new show in the Trip On Entertainment series. My name is Lee.
And my name is Alex.
We are a themed entertainment professional and an architect who travel a lot and would love to share this experience with you.
For a visual impression of what we discuss in the episode, check our Instagram at TripOnPodcast.
And we are still in Abu Dhabi on Yas Island. And actually, before we start to talk about our visit to SeaWorld, we are now here for a couple of days already, for a couple of nights also in the hotel. So we might also immediately take the opportunity to discuss our experience with the visit to Yas Island and to stay on the island in this hotel. How is it for you?
It was very pleasant. We had a lot of nice places to go and visit. The hotel is well integrated with the other on the island. We also visited the circuit today, the Yas circuit.
The Yas Marina circuit, which is probably a couple of Formula One nerds talking, but that was really special.
Yeah, maybe this can be like a separate episode. But it has a lot to offer. It had a lot of nice trips. We went to the city and took a shuttle, so it's very well connected with everything.
Yeah, and I think overall also for me, the hotel is just really pleasant. I mean, it looks decent. The service is really nice. The people are very friendly. We already had a couple of instances where we came up with some questions or they were very helpful to us. Generally, just the quality is quite high. And I have this holiday feeling over here. We both noticed that it is much more calm, it's much more quiet than being in the big city. There's not those massive multi-lane roads running through it. And even though there are, a lot of roads and it's all interconnected, it's not so crowded and not so full. It just feels like a pleasant holiday destination where we start to recognize, of course, when we're driving around in a shuttle, all the halls and all the venues that we see. And it keeps on blowing me away how impressive it is to see this massive Ferrari World structure or the big Warner Bros. Hall or something like that. And I'm just thinking like, okay, this is a good location to have fun for multiple days.
It's super relaxed and it's an amazing place for families with kids to spend their holidays. Super safe. The personnel is very nice and kind.
It's even quite walkable. We noticed that there is a more, I would say, human scale design to the whole place. And the breakfast is good, the service is good, the shuttles are driving everywhere, and it's even connected by public transport to Abu Dhabi itself. So I think if you do a little bit of research before and you figure things out, you can really find your way. It's also been more than a day now that we visited Warner Bros. World here on Abu Dhabi. And this allows us to talk a bit more about the thrill of that experience. And after a day, I can comfortably say that I'm still impressed by this park. And I'm constantly thinking that it's probably in my top 3 of best theme parks that I've ever visited. And the thing that I take away from the experience is that I cannot wait to take someone else there, to show it to someone.
Mm-hmm. What got stuck with me was how beautiful it all looked like and how amazingly themed it was. Everything was just matching, and until now I cannot believe how they made it. And I know that the budget was huge, but still the amount of work that went into it is just super impressive. We had a great time in general.
Yeah, and it also, I keep on also thinking about the guy who said that they are not able to change anything without the approval from the WB headquarters in the USA. And to be honest, I think it's a good thing. I think it's really good that they keep an eye on that and that the quality control is so high, because that really makes that this experience is truly high class. If you want to hear more details on that, definitely listen to the episode where we discuss this in further detail, because it's really, really interesting. Now we have to get to the body, to the most important aspect of why we are making this episode, and that is SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. And
big wow.
Big wow, yes.
We are speechless.
We already mentioned that for the Warner Bros. World visit, we both went in quite blue. And this definitely, for me, was a new thing. But I have to admit that for SeaWorld, I have never visited any SeaWorld in the world. I know about them. I've been very close to them. but I genuinely had no idea what to expect. And I think this only enhanced the experience because I was just blown away by what is on offer here. And there were so many things that we absolutely didn't see coming. And I think in general, this is probably, maybe even after Warner Bros., the highlight of the trip.
This might be the best experience we've had in here. It's difficult to say because it's difficult to compare SeaWorld with the theme park, but it was such a surprise. We completely didn't know what to expect from the Anonymous Hall, but then once we went inside, we were just blown away.
Yeah, it's also really new. It's the newest venue that is here on the island. When we look at the Yas Island and everything that is on offer here, SeaWorld has opened, I think, in March of 2023, if I'm not mistaken. So it means that this is a very new venue. And what I really like about that, and it's also maybe a good moment to compare it a bit with other multidisciplinary locations in the world where you have, for example, Disney World, or where you have Hollywood, where you could visit Anaheim for Disneyland, and you can also go to the Universal parks in Hollywood. I think what is special about this place is that Ferrari World is something that really stands on itself. It's something that is quite unique, and it is about a very specific IP, big coasters, high speed, and all that stuff. And then you have Warner Brothers, which is all about high-class theming and amazing storytelling and that kind of stuff. And it's completely not comparable to Ferrari World. But then you have SeaWorld, and this thing is just not comparable to the other two. So it means that I think the diversity is incredible. That's a big strength of this location. And immediately when we were in SeaWorld and we spent a couple of hours there, we started to realize, this is a location where you can take anyone to. Even our grandma basically could have a good time there. So that's incredible.
Also, the fact that they managed to put Arabic accents and make it more feel like you're in Abu Dhabi, you're in Middle East. This also was a great choice because it makes it more unique, makes it more fitting that you're in this specific location.
When you look at the other venues, when we visited Ferrari World, there was no touch of Abu Dhabi there, and the same goes with Warner Bros. So, it's not a secret that Warner Brothers is a Hollywood company, and this is very American. And SeaWorld managed to hit this note of being something that you have in Abu Dhabi specifically, and they managed to put some sort of cultural layer on top, and that's really worth it.
But in very classy way, in very elegant way, I would say.
So let's go to our first item in the show, which is the head, the heart, and the base. Just to give you a reminder, this is the part where we discuss the first impression that we have of an experience, and then the theme or the heart of the experience, so what we felt like when we were there already a couple of hours, and then later we are able to talk about the trail of the experience. So first, the head, the first impression. How was that for you?
At the beginning, when you enter, you see the coaster in front. You also have nicely shaded walkway, which already introduces you to the main entrance. And then you are in I don't even know how to call it, pre-entrance zone?
Yeah, it's a bit like a pre-entrance zone even.
Yeah, you completely don't know what to expect because it's on the ground level, but you have to take the stairs to go up. So everything is in a way elevated to the higher level. And then once you enter the whole park, you are in the actual entrance zone.
Yeah, I think it also illustrates how anonymous this park is from the outside and how difficult it is to make an estimation based on the name SeaWorld. Even, for the people that probably visited the other SeaWorlds, it's a lot easier to have an image. But for us, it was just a big blue box, basically, with an entrance. And when we walked up to it, for me, it was quite a surprise to see such a big coaster standing next to it. I wasn't expecting to ride another, let's say, great coaster on this trip. We have ridden a lot of coasters already. And we thought after Warner Brothers that we even said it out loud at some point, now we're done with coasters. But then there was another one over there, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing because it's it's a tremendous coaster, but especially when you walk in and when you actually go from level to level, it works so well with the anticipation where you are like, okay, where are they taking me? What is going on? And it was a really pleasant surprise to see this first area, which is kind of like an Arabic souk and like a harbor. And it was very pleasant and very peaceful in a way. And it didn't yet still lift the curtain on what the park really has to offer. It was still just an introduction. It was almost as if you were going through a story where you are in a town or a village, and then you have the harbor, and then in the distance you kind of have this feeling of an open sea. And still, that was like a first impression that didn't really fill in the blanks for us. The interesting thing about it is that even though the entrance is very grand, and it does offer you this experience of going into something big, it is done in a very unique way. It is not like a central big gate or a portal that you walk up to with all these ticket boxes around it. And it is really, really far from, let's say, the traditional American theme park model. And it is a very fresh way of entering an experience. It felt very distinctly Arabic, but still it felt very fresh and new and modern and clean. And I think that was really nice to see that it was actually something that was completely new on the palette of experiences that we had in the last weeks.
It created wow effect that only was growing with discovering new areas.
Yeah, and also what was crazy actually is that this wow effect already occurred when we arrived into the, let's say, the souk area. But then there is a portal in the back of the souk area, and it only says one ocean. And we were both like, okay, probably we have to walk in here. It looked, like a decent portal. It looked like you were kind of being dragged into it. And I think when we talk about first impressions, that moment when you walk around the corner and you walk into the central hub of the park, that was an absolute moment of wonder for me. It was so, and I think for you too. We were both like, wow. Literally, I don't think there's any other word to describe it.
Yeah, I think we've never seen something like this before. And the whole area is surrounded by LED screens, and it just looks amazing. It looks so new.
Yeah, it really feels like a space where you want to just hang out and take it all in. We have to paint a picture a little bit. You come around the corner and you see a space that is on the ground level and let's say up to a couple of floors of height. It is like a physical set, like physical scenography. And then above it, there is a giant 360-degree LED screen, which has really nice and crisp and clear imaging. And on this screen, they present oceans or anything related to the sea. And they also give an explanation. So now and then they explain a bit on a nature documentary level. They explain some facts and figures about the oceans. And then there is just the lighting that is working with it. And there's
beautiful
a really
soundtrack.
Yeah, beautiful music. And there's a big globe that is there in space, a little bit offset to the left, so it's not in the middle. And this globe is also playing along with what you see in the space. And it's just a very pleasant area to be with, very nice, impactful, beautiful sound and a soundtrack that continuously plays. It's kind of magical in a way, I think, how they do it. And it gives you this opportunity to just enjoy and take it all in. And this is also a place which we have to mention where there is no presence of live animals. I think that was a very conscious decision. So it is kind of the entertainment location also, where they do also a show multiple times a day. And it's from that moment on that you actually go into the rest of the park where you are more face-to-face with the animals. And I think that's a very nice, refreshing way of doing it, where you separate those things. But after the first impression, we have to get to the very heart of the experience.
Yeah, and at that moment we realized that the central place is a central hub. And from now on, we have to go into the specific zones and start to explore and discover.
Yeah, it's a very clear hub and spoke system. And the portals are done well. They communicate whatever the zone stands for that you're going to walk in without being too shouty. being too preachy. It is really well themed. So the polar zone, for example, the polar ocean zone is the portal for that is it's just rockwork and ice. It's very clear communication. I think we immediately had this feeling like this is going to be big. We still didn't know what to expect until that moment. It was just a very impressive sight to see. But we were making the decision to go first for the polar ocean.
So the clockwise.
We went clockwise direction, so the very first portal was on our left. And I think we were not prepared for what was happening next.
No. After we went through the portal, we were told that the area is super cold and there will be penguins inside. And to prepare yourself, you can stay inside as long as you wish, but they don't really offer any jacket or anything to cover yourself, so you're not prepared for the cold.
And of course, most of the people there were just walking in with shorts and t-shirts. And luckily, we packed some very thick vests or sweaters. Mainly because we are always too cold in the air conditioning that is around this place. And I'm really happy that we did it, because we walked in and it was so incredibly cold, but so beautifully genuine because of that. We saw the penguins playing in actual real snow. And I have to say, it completely transformed us into being in like an icy and snowy environment immediately.
The place felt extremely authentic, and penguins, they were having fun. There was a moment of feeding, so we could watch how they react, how they follow to get more fish.
And we were also able to get close to them.
Yeah, this was very surprising. If you would stretch your hand, you could almost touch them. There was no really real barrier or any glass.
We continued, and we started to realize also that the routing is very complicated. You're able to go down, go up, go under. There's a lot of underpasses, hallways. There's so many interesting pathways and changes of direction, and also changes of atmosphere in this park. The theming was excellent. The ice looked very real. Of course, in this case, also the temperature was helping. We saw that the penguins were playing, they were swimming, they were very active. And we were able to also take the stairs downwards, and then we were able to see the water from the bottom.
But after a while, we felt like we need to go out and change the room, because it was just too cold to stay in. And we felt super happy because it was very natural environment for the penguins, but it wasn't so natural for us, so we had to just get out.
So we are actually looking to the map for this. We have to refresh our memory on what the zones were called.
First, we went to Antarctica, then there was a polar ocean, and the next zone that we ended up in was Arctic.
Ah, yes, so the Arctic zone is the area where you have an overview over otters, and they created the scenography of a really big, I think it was like a research ship over there. And in the back they had like those very cute red painted wooden houses. And this area, this zone, had an amazing sightline with a beautiful focal point. And this is also where we managed to get information from one of the operators over there.
Yeah, he told us a lot of nice stories. He said that most of the otters are rescued, and they were actually transported from the Antarctica after some wildfires or any like catastrophic events.
Yeah, I think that's also an important point to mention, is that we noticed a continuous presence of specialists and caretakers. They were really keeping an eye on the animals. They were making notes, and also there were people walking around who were very eager to answer any questions or give some background information. So it felt much more like a sort of a wildlife education center than a zoo.
They also take well care of animals. We could really feel it because they monitor them during the feeding time. They are observing them. They stimulate them. They give them some toys to play with. So animals felt really well taken care of, and we could see that the personnel was really involved into time with them.
They were able to tell even stuff about each animal individually, so they really were knowledgeable about all this stuff. And it was also interesting just to hear how passionate they were about this. And it seemed like the caretakers, they were keeping the animals occupied, trying to keep them challenged by playing with them. The feeding was also done in a way that we could see they took their time. It was not like they were just emptying a bucket, like here you go, here's the fish. They were trying to make it a game. They were trying to make it also interesting, I guess, to see for the visitors. So yeah, it was a big plus.
During the conversation with the specialist, we also found out that there is a clinic in the building, and the clinic is under the ground, under the central hub. At the end of our visit, we actually managed to visit the clinic, and it was very impressive because we could see that they have place for the x-ray, place for monitoring the animals, for isolating them. So it really looks high level, and they can do everything at the spot. They don't need to stress the animal and take it
and transport them
somewhere else. Yeah.
I have to say that this space for the walruses and the otters is really spectacularly laid out. It didn't feel like we were inside a hall at all, and it was also interesting enough to keep you interested into exploring. So we were able to go again upstairs into cabins. We had some nice vistas. There were a lot of photos being taken there. And we walked through this zone, and it brought us back to the hub, which made us realize that, again, this park is laid out very well. It brings you back to the central hub, which is called One Ocean, and you're able to pick your next zone. So in this case, we chose to go into the zone where there are the sea lions. And this is actually more of a transition zone where normally there is an access to one of the main arenas. There was no show going on, which meant that it wasn't busy at all. It was quite calm. Even though it's maybe a little bit insignificant on the bigger scale of things, I really enjoyed it because this zone is full of sea lions, and in the middle there's a big lighthouse, and you're able to see the sea lions from above, but also from all the way down underwater. And I have never seen animals play so vividly with each other and be so active and be so, especially so diverse in how they interact with their surroundings. So it gives you the feeling that these animals are not bored.
Yeah. Also, what you've noticed was this mood lighting that was changing with the time. I think it's done to affect the mood of the animals, so they feel like there's an actual day and night going.
Yeah, we visited this place in the morning and it was bright blue, and later it was actually turning orange when we were there later. So it seems like they're even mimicking the changing light of day, which is very impressive. So when we were back in the hub, we chose to go into the next big zone, and this is the tropical ocean area. This is by far the biggest space, and it is actually more a traditional, I would say, hall, where you have a big body of water and you have an area which is fenced off, and that's the rainforest area. What was it? The
tropical rainforest,
where there are birds flying around and you're able to walk in and even interact a little bit with the birds. All the way in the end of the space, there's a massive arena where the dolphin presentations are being held, which was formerly known as the dolphin shows, but I know that SeaWorld is not so keen on using the word show anymore. And we even managed to visit one of those dolphin presentations.
Yeah, it was perfect timing. When we just got there, we got information that the show is starting just right now. We took our place, and the show was extremely impressive because they showed a lot of tricks and what the dolphins can do, but in the way that was educational and informative, not really to stretch the dolphins' well-being, I would say.
It was not to make them look like clowns in a circus, but it was more to make them look like they're playing and they're having fun.
It looked like dolphins were showing natural behavior instead of doing crazy tricks.
Yeah, we didn't see any balls or
fire rings or anything like that.
Anything that you would kind of imagine with an old dolphin show as it used to exist. So I think maybe they have made some progress there. So when we actually walked on throughout this zone, we also found a passage that was going downwards. So we had to take a stairway downwards. And it showed manta. And I was expecting, okay, this is probably the enclosure or the underwater viewing area for the manta rays. But
it was a coaster.
it was the entrance to the coaster.
So
So I was actually really happy with that because I was very, very curious to this coaster, especially when you are seeing it already when you walk in. And it was a nice, I would say, a nice moment, a nice way to break up the day, to kind of break up this very natural environment, very authentic, and all of a sudden you're just boarding a hyper coaster. So how happy were you, Alex, to be on another coaster?
to be honest, when I've heard that we're going to the SeaWorld, I was happy to have a day of break from the coasters. But then once we were at the entrance and we realized that there is one, I knew what's gonna happen. And then once we were walking, we saw this Manta sign. I knew this is a time to be afraid.
Yes.
So I couldn't say no. We went there, and it was quite of an extreme coaster, very long. It had a beautiful pre-show. Once we were starting, there was a huge aquarium that you could see from the other side of the park with actual fish swimming, and it was all in the marine style, so the aquarium was fitting perfectly.
And then we realized that when the train was going around the corner that, again, it's a launch coaster. They have something with launch coasters here in the Middle East. There are many of them. But then again, this one's a bit different. The launch isn't crazy forceful. And then the rest of the layout actually is really impressive. This coaster is staying quite low to the ground, and it is doing a lot of crazy twists and turns. And it has an additional, I think, 2 launches after the initial launch. And it is just a really interesting layout. It's going through things. There's a lot of set pieces around it. And it's not the most elaborate themed coaster, but it's still decently themed. And I think the layout is interesting. It is much longer than you expect. And it was, for us, worth it to ride it another time.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we went on it, this time front row seat. And I think you enjoyed it the second time more.
Yeah, the front seat was beautiful. We could see the whole track and all the obstacles that the coaster was going through. It was great fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. Honestly, I think this park doesn't need a coaster like this. I think the park is already great in itself, but I would never say no to a coaster like this. So I was really happy to have this experience in between. And to be honest, it was also unexpected for us because we didn't expect to be on a coaster that day, but we definitely didn't expect to be on such a hyper coaster. So from there on, we continued and we actually found a very interesting F&B point because we saw that there was a place where you could buy burgers and fries and that kind of stuff. And then we found out that the seating area was located in a very interesting place.
It was surrounded by the aquarium. You could choose a spot sitting just next to the glass and having a beautiful view to the fish.
You had like hundreds of fish swimming next to you.
Which normally, if you go to any other aquarium place or expensive hotel, especially here in the Middle East, you pay a lot for the table with such view. And here it was just included in the park ticket. It was super romantic.
Yeah, I think this is immediately a point that we have to address. So for everyone who is listening to this and who is maybe tempted to go to a high-class 5-star, 7-star hotel where you are lured in because there is a dining option next to an aquarium, don't do it. Just go to SeaWorld Abu Dhabi and you can dine on whatever budget you have, and you can sit in multiple areas in the park right next to a beautiful aquarium. It's really, really impressive.
You can sometimes even sit under the aquarium and see the fish above you. There are many configurations, and it's just...
It's just included in your day, so highly recommend. After we had a nice piece of cake, which we chose actually to eat while looking over the One Ocean area, which is a very incredible, dreamy setting to be sitting in. To be honest, we were both still like blown away by what was on offer, and we were thinking, does it get really better than this? Because this just seemed so amazing. So we finished, and we went to the Endless Ocean Zone, and I can just say, wow again.
Big wow.
Because this, I think, is for both of us the favorite area in the entire park.
Yeah, it was done in such amazing way. You take the escalator up again, and you go with the stairs. And first thing that you see is again the aquarium. But after you enter to the next room, you see again a huge aquarium, but in the style of science fiction or Star Wars-like in a way.
Yeah, they did a really good job with this one because they made it seem as if it was a research center, which makes use of several highly technological underwater pods and vehicles. And it allows you to enter some of those pods, which have like a glass dome in them. And from those vehicles, you can look into a really large and impressive and deep aquarium with several different species swimming around in there. And it's just such a massive setup.
And the crazy thing is that the same aquarium you can see from different angles and different vistas, and you can experience it in a completely different way each time. Sometimes you are under this aquarium in the huge glass dome. Sometimes you are entering the escalator and you see it just above you. In some moments you just pass nearby. It's all over surrounding you, and you completely lose sense of how huge this aquarium actually is.
It almost turns one aquarium into several attractions. It's able to lead you through a very elaborate routing where you are making so many twists and turns that you lose kind of your orientation as to where you are in relation to the aquarium that you've seen before. But it also gives you the opportunity to sometimes experience it very confined and almost narrow and small, and sometimes you see it very open and very wide and very light. It does genuinely, for me, hit the mark of how it must feel to be in deep ocean. I think there is no other application that I've seen that hits the mark so well, because it is like a combination of man-made objects or man-made surroundings with like a very natural feeling underwater world.
Yeah, I can just say that I've never seen before anything like that in my life. You stand there and it's so overwhelming in a way.
Yeah, there's even a couple of spaces where they highlight the experience with a nice soundtrack. They have really excellent lighting design again. And for me, it was worth it to just stand there and just take it all in. Just to take it slow and enjoy the surrounding, enjoy the music, enjoy the views. And in that regard, I think this space is something where you can just dream away.
It's super relaxing.
It's for every age.
Yeah, you can just stare there for hours.
And then it was time for the last zone of the park. Now I really understand why the zone is added, because we also see, especially in the Middle East, that kids tend to have a lot of energy. And this is a pure entertainment zone where they created kind of like a blow-up underwater world. There's some attractions dotted around. There is a play area, there is a play structure, and there is a nice junior coaster. And we kind of live by the rule, never say no to a coaster. So we stood in line for this one. It's a fairly simple ride with a decent layout. I think, if this would be a junior coaster in any other park, it wouldn't stand out that much. But with the surroundings and with the lighting and everything, it made the coaster just that much more special. We were riding this coaster and we were thinking, wow, this is still nice. It's still a great experience.
Yeah, and it takes you around the whole zone. You can see it from the top, so we experience the decoration in a different way.
So even though this is very much tailored for kids and it's very colorful, it's very happy, it's quite chaotic because there's quite some sound, I think it's still a good addition to the park, because it does allow the kids to just go and blow off some steam, go in some rides, scream it out. And it also, for me, I think made it that the other areas in the park are still sometimes devoid of any shouting and ADHD, because I have the feeling that the kids are not as present in some areas. And it gives you also the opportunity as a visitor to just enjoy the views of beautiful aquariums while maybe the kids are having fun. I would really like to hear your professional view on this project from an architect's point of view.
It's definitely impressive building, It's super big, 180,000 square meters. And what is even more interesting is that the park contains of more than 58 million liters of water, and it is a home to more than 150 species of marine animals. And it just shows how grand the project is in itself. What was also amazing is the fact of the total design, that it felt like you're in a science fiction film or like you just moved to the future. Like sometimes I just completely felt, I think we are in the future, this is the future, because it is so timeless and so like innovative in a way.
There is a really high factor of total design here, and the amount of customization on display here is maybe even higher than we saw in Warner Bros. So the info signing, the wayfinding, even the bins were very inconspicuous, and they were very well themed and fitting in the themed areas.
Everything was just so great integrated, like air conditioning, evacuation signs, everything is total design. It has a lot of amenities. Toilets were literally everywhere. Whenever you think you need to go to the toilet, there is a toilet. And
I have the same feeling about F&B.
Yeah, same story. There were various F&B points with beautiful vistas. Like we've mentioned, this huge aquarium that you normally pay really a lot of money for that kind of experience. Another thing that I would like to mention is how huge and spacious the enclosures for the animals were, because it felt much more natural and it felt like they are not cramped in a small tiny spaces, which made us as visitors feel much better about the whole project.
Yeah, it felt more like instead of putting the animals on display for our entertainment, it felt like the animals were just in a natural habitat doing their thing, and we were just like incidentally just watching them or being able to view them.
Yeah, construction-wise, I was just amazed how this huge aquarium was integrated into the structure and how they created a dome under the water, which I know how difficult to calculate it is and how much force works on the glass and how to keep it all safe and well calculated. It's just extremely impressive. Something that truly impressed me was the space where the 20-meter tall vertical window is displayed. It creates beautiful vista on the aquarium and creates light coming through the water that everyone wants to take a photo with, and it's
really mesmerizing, this space. The space itself also is completely cladded with rockwork.
Yeah, it's so monumental in a way, and people are just there standing in silence and taking it all in.
Yeah, so also from my professional view as a themed entertainment professional, there's so much to say about it, but I think the one thing that stands out to me is just their use of space. So it is a very big blue box, and when you actually walk through the park in the beginning, when you go up multiple levels, you realize that there's going to be much more to experience in the rest of the park when it comes to height differences. So they have so many underpasses and see-throughs and interesting scenography and lighting changes throughout your entire day, and so many different angles to look into the aquariums that it just never gets boring. Where I also want to praise what they've done is the music. I really think it heightens the experience. I have the feeling that sometimes they use the music to complement some sort of like a show effect or highlight some beats or story beats. But also just the music that was used in certain areas was so atmospheric, and it was not too epic. It was just really comfortable, and it made it very dreamy and almost like mesmerizing and fairy tale-like. And that's really, really well done. It's like non-intrusive. It's not interfering with how you experience the animals. It's almost on a level where I think it is all about atmosphere and all about seeing how beautiful the ocean is, instead of trying to make it too grand or too epic or too adventurous. And this is really, really well done. I also think that the use of screens here is from a really high level. They chose to go with LED panels, which I think is a really great decision because the LED panels are generally much more clear and high in contrast. And as soon as there is a black image, it also manages to create really deep blacks. So I really hope that they can keep up the quality of those, because we also see sometimes, unfortunately, that LED panels that are being used here in the Middle East are sometimes broken, or there is a panel that's not working, or there is something flickering, and it just takes you out of the experience. But for now, everything was pristine, everything worked great, and I hope that they can manage to keep that level up. So we get to the point where we have to discuss also our room for improvement. And we are so positive about this park, but there's always something like that. So I'm really curious, what do you have as room for improvement?
Honestly, to me, this was such a beautiful experience that I don't really think of anything to change. I've enjoyed it so much that really there was nothing that could go better.
Yeah, I also have, I was of course thinking about this, and we had a very hard time trying to find something that was just not good enough or that could really improve.
Did you manage to find something?
There's one thing that I found, and it's for me that the tropical ocean zone was for me by far the weakest zone on display. And I have to clear up that that doesn't mean that it's bad what they did, because it's really not bad. It's actually still very good. But I do notice that the decision to make a very big glass wall on one side, which is washing a tremendous amount of daylight into the space from the side, is not really helping the atmosphere over there.
I would say maybe not even the light was that much of an issue, but more the view through the window, because through the window you have residential buildings and it a bit takes you out of this experience.
Yeah, there was a view on a block, a couple of blocks of flats over there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the best location for the window, let's say.
Yeah, what I mean is that for indoor theme parks generally, especially when you are making use of artificial surroundings, it doesn't really help when you have light coming from the side. It makes everything fall flat. And I think it would have helped this space if the light would have been coming more from the top. And one area where you notice it is that there's a really big arena, the arena that looks over the presentation with the dolphins. And the big window in the back just didn't help, because the light was like, you were looking into the light, and it made it very hard to read. And it also made everything look a bit cheaper, I think, than it was supposed to look. So that would be my point of room for improvement. Other than that, the space is still very impressive.
Yeah, it's just mind-blowing.
So then we come to the grumpy minutes. Mm-hmm. Do we have any grumpy thoughts that we want to ventilate?
I might have one, actually.
I'm very curious.
So talking about the area, which was called the Micro Ocean, the only thing that I've missed there, this was the area for the kids with the play elements and kiddie coaster. And the only thing that I've missed there was the play structure that we could also go onto. Because I've asked one of the operators and if the adults can also use it. And she said, no, it's only for the kids. And I kind of miss it because it looked like it was built for the adults. It was not a tiny space to climb on. It seemed actually quite spacious and big, and it really made me feel like I want to go and explore this play structure, but it was not allowed. And I think that's a pity that it's not including the adults or parents who could maybe join the kids and have fun time together on the structure.
Yeah, even though there is a trend now in the theme park industry, recently also with the opening of the African Trail in Phantasialand, where it is a climbing trail where you're also able to go in as an adult, and it's just great. It's a great experience. And you're right that this park could have used something like that. So also even for the adults to feel this excitement through exploration and stuff like that. So yeah, I do understand your point there. But other than that, actually, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of grumpy minutes that I want to ventilate.
Woohoo! That's quite unique.
That's quite unique.
Say.
Yeah.
In general, the whole experience is just wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. I also have the feeling that people behaved better than in what we've seen in some of the other theme parks. I did notice that there were some kids still climbing on stuff which was saying, please don't climb. But, that's just kids being kids.
That's regular, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see any people throwing a scene or shouting or being frustrated or whatever. So I think in general, the experience was just positive on all levels.
I think the water and aquarium makes actually people calmer. So maybe, they get a bit more relaxed and not so pretentious, I would say.
Maybe they behave better because of it.
Yeah,
True.
there is maybe some calming effect to it.
So then we get to the absolute highlights of the day. So for me to start off, my absolute highlight is definitely the endless ocean area. I think it's very hard to top something like this. This is such a great underwater experience that it just looks like besides the fact that it looks like a deep aquarium, it makes you realize that there must be so much in the ocean still that we have to discover.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree, but to me, the best in that zone still was this 20-meter tall vertical glass, because it was so monumental and dramatic in a way. I just loved it. It was so meaningful.
Yeah, that also brings me to the point where I think the best way to describe what people have been able to achieve here, I think it is fair to say that it is monumental, what they've been able to build over here. And we often are very positive about what is being done, but this is such an amazing place where it's almost unbelievable what people are able to build. That this is for me more than entertainment or more than a marine life zoo or whatever. It is almost something that you have to see to believe it.
Yeah, it was like an art piece or art exhibition in that regard.
Yeah, I think the other thing that was the absolute highlight for me, and that's actually a moment that I would love to experience once more, which is impossible because, it happened already, is this reveal of the central hub. I think that was just such a big moment where all of a sudden it hit me, and I think you had the same thing, that this is big. This is something that we have never seen before. If you look at it from a distance, both the SeaWorld project and the Warner Brothers project have some similarities. They kind of share the same basic blueprint, where there is like a central space where they use media to educate and to entertain, and from there on there is branches into different zones. But even though they have this similarity, they're still so different, and they're so well done in their own right, that I think for me the highlight was to experience that Warner Brothers moment that I had with the Central Plaza again, but in a completely different light. And that's incredible. We are going to spend some time on actually rating this place. So for that we go much more into detail. We're going to give scores to the several different elements. The rating is much more in detail. We will not discuss it here, but we will actually go to our standard item where we say trip off, consider, or trip on. So I think I can guess yours, but...
For me, definitely trip on, with no doubt. And for you?
For me, definitely trip on. Yeah, I can comfortably say that I would say to people, you have to see this with your own eyes. You have to go here. You have to experience this. This is something you will not be able to experience anywhere else. So that actually brings it that we both say trip on to Warner Bros. And we say trip on to SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. So this must be convincing for people. And we have come to the end of this show.
And that leaves us to say our tip.
Go on and plan your next trip.